Welcome to my dad's car. Enjoy!
Welcome to My Dad's Car, a podcast discussing our personal relationship with automotive nostalgia. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be about your dad's car. It can be your mum's, your grand's, your parents', guardians, or even a neighbour's. If it made an impression, let's talk about it. Hi Faye, you right?
Good, nice to meet you.
Yeah, and you? Thank you for joining us. We're just waiting for John, who I do the podcast with, who will be with us very shortly, and then we can get underway.
I've never done a podcast before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah, I do.
In a second, we'll do an intro and get your earliest car memory, and we'll see where it leads us.
Hi, John.
Afternoon, how'd you do?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. You all right, Andy?
Yeah, we're good, yeah.
Sorry I was a bit late. One of my headphones, the earbuds, fell off one of the ears.
Ah.
I didn't want to be in discomfort for the entire recording.
No. Are you comfortable now, John?
Relatively, yeah. I'm never really that comfortable, to be honest, no.
Okay, welcome along, Faye. And I think I came across what you get up to, I think as a comment on Johnny Smith's post recently. It was a sort of a deep and meaningful, wasn't it? I think he put up about kind of cars you remember from your childhood, which is obviously massively in my ballpark, or our ballpark even. And we won't give the game away yet, but I reached out to you and said, this sounds like it could be up your street. And fortunately, you said, yes, it would be. So do you want to introduce yourself quickly? You can give yourself a plug if you like as to what you get up to.
So I'm Faye Hatton and I am a freelance PR manager. I've worked in automotive for 20 years, so you could say that that's kind of my niche. So yeah, I help brands and businesses tell their stories and get their messages across. I love it. I've only worked for myself for 4.5 years. I've been in-house at JLR and Aston Martin, but I really love working for myself and working for medium-sized kind of British businesses, because people think that what they do day in, day out isn't that interesting, but it really, really is. And there's so many wonderful automotive businesses in this country that are experts at what they do and lead the way for the rest of the world. So yeah, I get to work with really wonderful people every week.
Nice.
Fantastic. That's sort of what I do as a day job. We won't kind of go too far down that.
Oh.
But I work in marketing for a car parts supplier, classic car parts supplier.
Oh, wow.
So, I'll pick your professional brains at some point.
Yeah, please do. And we can compare stories. Everyone's got a story, right?
I cut grass, for the record.
You cut grass, John? But even that makes me want to ask you a million questions.
You've got a bit of a gardener's jumper on there, actually.
Yeah, it's dark green. It's actually the same colour as my children's school uniform. So when I wear this, they think that I'm trying to get into the school, and I couldn't think of anything worse, to be honest. So no.
You're going to drop them off and leave them to it.
I literally run away. I run away, drop them off and run away.
Okay, yeah. What's your earliest car memory?
So it's not a memory of being in a car. It's a memory of walking home from school. And it's not just one memory, to be honest. It's probably days and weeks and months of my childhood where we lived next door to the school that I went to. So it was probably a 300-metre walk. And I can picture it now, where I would walk home and I must have been 4, 5, 6. And I would look at a few cars. They were all parked up. You know, outside schools, it's terrible. People all park up.
Not on the yellow lines, I hope.
No, not on the yellow lines. It was actually a disused bus stop. So it was like a little lay-by. So they were all parked and all lined up. And every day I would look a few cars down and look at the shape and try and remember and identify the brand. And as I would get closer, I would think, yes, I knew that was a Ford. Yes, I knew that was a Vauxhall. And I don't think I even realised I was doing it, or perhaps that it was an unusual thing to do, until much later in life. But I've always had this thing about car design and how the shape and the stance and these kind of signature lines that these brands use to identify their cars, and how that makes certain people feel and how it evokes brand loyalty, and how when you choose a car, so much of it is whether you like how the way it looks, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my earliest car memory of probably identifying brands and logos on the back of cars in the 5-minute walk that I used to do from school every day.
So was there a reason you were kind of alerted to cars? Either of your parents kind of into cars, or?
No. So my dad's a goldsmith. He's always run his own business. And my mum was a stay-at-home mum. She worked in a school for a bit. But there's no... my great uncle, who my dad grew up with, was a mechanic.
Okay.
But we were never a car family. My brother started karting when he was a boy, and it's one of the stories really that makes up my life. But I got into motorsport PR because of that.
Okay.
I didn't know it before then. I think I listened to some of your podcasts, and I work in the field, and so many people say that their childhood memories are of either their dad being heavily involved in cars, or, the corporate jobs where they always spec'd up the latest Audi, and, your dad had a corporate job, or your mum, although I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so less so. But yeah, it was neither of those things for me. I think cars found me. And I'm so grateful. I love them.
It's good to hear.
We always had okay cars.
Yeah.
Which we'll go into. But I actually think it was more of like a statement from my dad's part rather than being a true petrol head.
So what's the earliest vehicle you remember your parents having?
I think it was a Sierra Ghia.
You mentioned you've got siblings. Is your brother older or younger than you?
So I'm the eldest of 3.
Okay.
I've got a younger sister and a younger brother. So I was always in the middle. Always in the middle seat in the back. I hope people can relate to me.
On the lap belt?
Yeah. That's not fair, is it? Being the oldest and always being in the middle, because the other 2 would kick up such a fuss. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go in the middle.
Knees squished up round your waist.
Yeah.
Supposedly you had a bit more knee room there, didn't you?
No, because you have to do the turf war thing, don't you? Where you basically put in a leg either side of, the bit in the middle.
The tunnel, yeah.
And then they tell you that you're taking up too much space, and then they could lean their heads against the windows and fall asleep. And that was never an option for me.
You got nowhere for your arms, have you?
No.
Need to do the old cinema trick, the old... Not that I have.
For the benefit of the tape.
I think it would be the opposite of that, wouldn't it? Where we'd put barriers between us. That's the line. You're over my line. So yeah, always 3 in the back. Although, to be honest, and I think this is quite an important point, as a child, we spent a lot more time in the car with my mum than we did my dad. She would cart us around to all of our trips. So one of us would get to sit in the front. Actually, here you go. It's probably a perk of being the oldest. When I was old enough, I got to sit in the front more than the other 2.
Yeah.
But we spent more time in the car with mum than we did with dad. If we went on any road trips and dad drove, that would be unusual.
Interesting.
So yeah, my earliest car memories of just things like being in the car with mum going swimming to swimming club, or picking my brother up from one of his friends, and we had some good conversations. It was always quite being one of 3, the house was busy with the dog, and actually being in the car with mum was probably quite calm and peaceful relatively. It was nice. She was a good driver, much better driver than my dad.
What colour was the Sierra, do you know? Remember?
Silver. But yeah, and it we always had mechanical problems. So being a goldsmith, everyone assumes that you have a lot of money, but we didn't. It was very up and down. My parents went bankrupt, I think, in the early 90s.
Okay.
So we'd had these cars that were just questionable, and we'd go to some friends' houses who, were wealthy, and we'd leave and there'd be an oil spill on the driveway, and it was just constant, always slightly under-delivering compared to my parents' friends. Always slightly embarrassing, but fun. My dad loved driving, but he's not a very good driver. He never really concentrated. There were a few near misses.
Oh no.
Silver Sierra gear.
Is that a hatchback or estate or?
No, hatchback.
Yeah.
So when your mum was driving you around, Faye, presumably your dad was a passenger. Would he take out like the navigator role?
No, he would be at work.
Oh, okay.
He worked 6 days a week.
Oh, right.
I think that's where you learn your work ethic from your parents, don't you? And he was in retail. He grew his business from nothing. So he worked 6 days a week all through my childhood. I used to put on the football on a Saturday afternoon and know that when the final scores were coming in, that's when Dad would nearly be home. So he drove when we went as a family.
Yeah.
But yeah, we only really had Sundays together as a family.
Did you have music on in the car, radio, or?
Yeah, music.
What were you listening to?
Whatever my dad chose. So everything from the Christians. He loves Lisa Stansfield. And me and my sister were talking about this podcast the other week because I said I was coming on. And we were absolutely cracking up because, the song, I'm not going to sing, nobody hears that, but I've been around the world and I can't find my baby by Lisa Stansfield. So unbeknownst to us, we both in the same car at the same time were listening to the lyrics of that song. It only transpires now because we spoke about it. We were thinking, how can you lose a baby? How is she going to find her? Because that song was played so much. It was one of my dad's favourites. And there's another song that really stands out in my mind, and I'm not sure the car we had at this point. It might have been the Carlton, but we went skiing one year and we drove, and I'm not joking. I think my dad put the Backstreet Boys album on loop the whole way.
Was that for his enjoyment or for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
He wanted it that way.
He did.
Yellow
Backstreet's
card.
back, all right. And too much. One album on repeat for like 36 hours is just too intense.
Just trying to show that he was in tune with modern
Down
culture.
with the kids.
Yeah.
Down with the kids. And I think we had like the 6 disc.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was great. But it was not with my children. I don't know about you guys, but we take it in turns. So I'll put Spotify on Apple Play and we'll take it in turns to be the DJ and we all have a request. But it was not like that when I was a kid. You just had to listen to what was on.
Absolutely. Yeah. How it should be.
You will suffer. Listen to this.
You will suffer. Yeah. And then probably, did you guys ever listen to the radio? Because I think my dad used to listen to Talk Sport or the equivalent, or Radio 5 Live, which was just white noise to me.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, haven't we, with previous guest, Sandy? Sort of cricket in the car was quite a common one among a lot of parents. But where we used to live, I think we used to try and pick up like Capital FM for the football on the Saturday.
Oh.
And it would have like a really strong hiss, but you could just about make out the commentary, so it just kind of did the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents never really listened to sport on the radio. And we weren't kind of a big football-y family or cricket or something. So, yeah, I didn't really have to endure that too much.
What were you doing?
What were we doing? I played a little bit of football as a kid, but yeah, we didn't kind of have a team or anything. We didn't all sit down to watch match. We'd watch like England games, but that was kind of it. I would watch a bit of rugby, actually. My stepdad was a PE teacher, so he was kind of into that sort of thing. So, yeah. Not car related. I remember watching kind of Six Nations on a small black and white telly upstairs on my parents' bed years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
No good for the snooker, black and white.
Yeah.
If he was a sports teacher, he probably didn't want to listen to sport on the radio if he was teaching kids all week and probably had enough of it.
Yeah, I guess not. But yeah, I find that kind of quite boring, really, just listening to sport. I like watching it, but yeah, especially with the hisses that you get on the old long wave. Or
you had limited choice. There wasn't Spotify. You didn't have DAB. You kind of found your favourites, didn't you? Favourite CD, favourite radio station. That was it. Off you went.
This is what you've got.
My memory of Saturday afternoon would be in the house radio on with the commentary, and then CFAX would be on. Just with the scores.
Yeah.
Like 3 pages, just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? If you told someone that's what we used to do.
I do remember journeys where you'd go through kind of like a valley or something. You'd have to change the radio. Like when you go around that corner, you're like, oh yeah, we've got to adjust that because otherwise you're just going to have a hiss.
Yeah.
Or you have a long tunnel and you just have white noise for a minute. You're like, oh.
Yeah, it's so true. And if you went through a tunnel, did you hold your breaths in the car when you went through a tunnel when you were kids?
Got a friend that used to do that, and I always wondered why he did it.
Oh,
Is there a reason behind that?
oh, I do it even now with my children. I mean, I think it's just for fun.
Okay.
Dangerous game.
Presumably you don't do it in the Channel Tunnel.
Or even the Dartford Tunnel. That's also a bit too far, I would say.
If you can get through that one. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, arguably not a good idea if you're driving, just in case you get a bit lightheaded. But
Yeah.
no, fun.
We used to go on a journey and used to go down a really big dip and then you kind of come up the other side. And my mum used to get us to flap as if we were going to take off. I think she kind of used to do that route as a kid, and that's kind of what they used to do in their family car. And then, we don't do it very often with the kids, but if we do go that way.
There's a section when we go to visit my mum, and it does that a bit sort of up and down. And if there's no one in front of you, you can get decent sort of pace up.
Yeah.
And the girls in the back, they always do sort of make like roller coaster noises as we're going up and down.
I remember that too, like the tummy flip if you go over certain bumps.
Oh, yeah. I hate that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Yeah. And the ears as well. It can sort of play havoc with your ears going up and down sometimes. What it does with me. Yeah.
Isn't it lovely talking about that family time? We don't think of it as, and I think I've got actually some really creative ideas in my head. I think some big brands should implement because, as a family, the time that you spend in the car, you don't really care what it looks like from the outside. You shut the world in, don't you? And it seems like dead time, but even just talking to you now, it's not. It forms that core memories of actually probably no drama, no stress, but that peaceful time where maybe you might bicker over your legs too far over mine, or you've run out of sweets, or someone feels a bit sick. But that to me is the basis of family life. And as a parent now, the car trips where we chat, or one of the kids, I can tell by the way that they sit if they've got something on their mind. And there's research, isn't there, that's shown that it's an incredibly positive place to have important conversations as a family, because you're not looking at each other face to face, and you're also concentrating on driving, you're concentrating on where you're going. So it's a really neutral, sedate environment to have important conversations. I think there's something in that, and even the journeys where you don't have big conversations, they do form part of your childhood, and that's part of the magic of cars for me.
I think you can. Yeah, there's lots of things. I remember kind of sitting in the back of the car on motorways, kind of the first time you see something that goes past kind of what I remember seeing XJSs going past on the motorway.
Nice.
And like, wow. Or like, we've talked about new registrations and things. You kind of spot the first registration on like that first day.
Yeah.
Do you remember your friends having interesting cars, kind of back at school, kind of parents having either interesting or massively dull? Or teachers? If you were next to the school?
Presumably you had the sort of best vantage point of the school drop.
Yeah.
Being next door to the...
And the embarrassing ones around the corner.
That's me.
I think my best friend's dad had a Volvo estate, and I've got a soft spot for those now.
Yeah.
I think that's a solid choice. And I used to work with Ian Callum at Jaguar, and he always spoke so fondly of... they did those in the touring cars, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because they're actually incredibly aerodynamically efficient. So whenever I see a Volvo estate, it makes me laugh. And I think I want an estate as my next car. I think I'm 40 now. I've got 3 kids. I think I'm a proper grown-up. And in my lifetime, I want to own an estate. So I really like the new Peugeot 308 estates. But I digress. One of the memories that I've got is my friend's parents. They were both quite corporate. They had good jobs, and they got a new Passat.
Okay.
And on the inside, all the lighting was like an aeroplane, and it was new. So we never had new cars as kids, ever, as a family. We never bought a new car. And this was new. And I just thought, whoa, all the lights, all the kind of, I mean, compared to what it is now, it was nothing. But the interior was the first time I think I'd appreciated an interior of a car, and maybe technology in a car rather than exterior design. And another thing, this is definitely related. I love classic Mercedes SLs.
Okay.
And the reason I do is because I remember once my parents' friends pulled up. They think they'd rented one for a weekend. I couldn't tell you what year it was, forgive me, but it's probably a 70s or 80s one. And it was red, bright red convertible with a cream interior, and they were off for a weekend. And I've never seen anything so sexy and glamorous as that car in my whole life. I just couldn't believe that something that looked like that existed. And off they went for a romantic weekend. So I also need to own one of those one day.
That sounds like the Beverly Hills Cop, the original Axel Foley one. I think he's on the bonnet of it in the poster for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Belonged to the lady at the art gallery. I can't remember her name.
Jenny,
That's the one.
yeah.
So cool. And I like Ford. You know, it was a brand that I saw the most. My grandparents always had Ford Focuses or Fiestas. I live in a town called St Neots, and there's a Ford garage there. It's been there forever. So they were always quite a popular choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything, I guess, from a sensible Volvo estate to sensible Fords to a classic Mercedes SL.
Nice.
My nan had a run, I guess, of new cars, or very nearly new. And my biggest memory from those is how hard the back seats were. And whether just because we had sort of weathered second-hand cars and you got into them, they're a bit like kind of a used sofa.
Like an armchair. Yeah.
Just sort of bump into it. And yeah, they were just kind of really firm. And I think my earliest car memory, is a Golf Tour my nan and granddad had. I don't know how old I was. I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe. But yeah, I remember that, just them kind of coming around, it just being very upright and stiff. And then they had, Toyotas as well. And those back seats were just really kind of, I was like, why isn't there no give in these? Because no one's ever sat in them. Like,
Yeah.
we had leggy Montegos and they're all kind of a bit baggy.
I remember I used to get a lift home from school via a friend's parent, and occasionally when that friend couldn't do it, they sort of roped someone else in to do it. And they had a brand new, I think it's like one of the first MPV Toyotas.
Okay. I like the Previa or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, we had a Previa, the Spacemobile, we called it.
Yeah, I think it was that sort of thing. And we would just get like the sliding doors and you'd get in,
Yes.
they start getting into a van with sort of seats.
Yeah.
I just remember sort of rolling around in it on the way home, and you just sort of thought, this is like nothing else I've experienced before. It's bizarre.
Yeah, we had one. It was navy blue. And
This one was navy blue as well, yeah.
I mean, maybe they all were.
Perhaps, yeah.
And we called it the Spacemobile because it was like a ship. Like, it was massive. We had that for a long time when we all became teenagers, and, you know, my parents were traipsing mates around to parties. That's when we got the Previa, and we had that for a long time. We all really enjoyed that car. It was great.
Yeah.
And my sister drove it for a while as well, actually. Everything you could want, really, I think. And yeah, if I see one now, it makes me smile. You don't see many though anymore, do you?
No.
They didn't really last.
It's funny that at the time, obviously, that was a bit of a sort of groundbreaking thing, wasn't it? But it's just so obvious. Just like you need to ferry your kids and all the stuff around that goes with it. Just have a van with seats in.
Yeah.
I guess it sort of leads from probably the old Volkswagen, I imagine, and then kind of like the Bedford Commer van type thing. And then I think the Espace was probably the first of the SUV, wasn't it? Or MPV or whatever they called them. I think they came out in, 88, something like that.
Still a few of those floating around, isn't there? See them occasionally. Like original Espace on a driveway or something like that.
You don't really get them anymore, do you? You get the SUVs, which are 5 seats. And then you get the kind of big, you know, the VW camper vans, and that kind of bit in the middle's gone.
Yeah, Ford Galaxies pop up. We had a Galaxy for a while. You got a Picasso, haven't you, John?
I'm involved with a Grand Picasso, yeah. Yeah.
Do you like them? Does it work?
The wife likes them, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for what we need it for, it is really good. It sort of ticks all the boxes in terms of, you know, the kids just trash it, and it's pretty good on fuel. Well, it's very good on fuel, actually.
As a parent, petrol head, do you feel constant conflict like I do? You know, when people say, what would your dream car be? I mean, I could list probably 5, including a 911 Dakar, a classic SL. I love the Aston Martin 177. And you'll note that all of those are not compatible with a family. So then I go, well, and then I have to, like, well, do you want my answer based on what my heart desires, or do you want a much more realistic answer in terms of what a vehicle needs to provide me with the life that, because they are entirely different ends of the spectrum. Do you feel that what my heart desires and what my head would choose are very, very, very different things?
Yeah. I mean, I did have an old-ish BMW saloon, but because of the ULEZ expansion, it kind of forced our hand into moving that on. And then we did actually have two cars at one point, an older Picasso and that BMW, but then we went to just the BMW, and obviously that had to go. So my wife sort of favoured a Picasso. So I couldn't really justify getting another sort of classic-y type car. And to be honest, I just haven't got the space to store a classic at the moment, much as I would like to. But I don't think I would go too extreme in terms of price of an old classic. I'd probably get something quite run-of-the-mill and cheap. I spoke about old Beetles before. I know they tend to be quite rusty, don't they, Andy? But something like that appeals to me, I think, rather than like a super-duper.
Yeah, well, the cost of the upkeep and the fuel and tax and whatnot. I had a Mark 1 TT.
Okay,
cool.
Which I bought in 2009. I had to sell that last year because we moved county and I needed to raise a little bit of money. So I sold that, which I don't think I regret, but I do miss it.
I think they're one to watch, the Mark 1 TT, aren't they?
I agree. I think I will regret selling it.
There's some very cheap ones out there.
Rock bottom at the moment, perhaps, aren't there?
Probably a headache, but
yeah,
for a few grand, you can get a nice one.
It's a classic shape, right? I mean, you can't see that and not recognise what it is. Like the Beetle.
Yeah.
Nothing else looks like that and never will.
They stopped making it now. Recently, perhaps. I feel like the TT has been bumped off.
Don't know.
I think you might be right. The R8's going, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think they've got the A5, I guess, is like a bigger coupe, isn't it, compared to the TT?
Yeah.
But I'm completely out of touch with modern cars, so.
There's no shame in that.
No.
Well, this is the other thing, right, guys? You know, I mean, having worked for some big brands, the teams, and I was very much part of this, you live in this world where you go from car launch to car launch and you think that everyone has noticed that the grille on your latest model is slightly wider or, you know, the waistline of the car is higher than it was, or we call it a DLO, the daylight opening, which is the shape of the windows. But in reality, and I experienced this, I took 8 years out to bring up my children, people don't notice and they don't really care. And I think the automotive industry would do better to kind of, rather than expect people to come to their party, why don't you just get a bit more involved in the everyday lives of people? And yes, there's certain brands that don't need to do that because they are millionaires and they buy the cars that they want and they do care about this, like change in the grille design. But for the vast majority of us, and any brand trying to, I think, appeal to women, it's about how it fulfills your needs in life. And for some women, that's transporting children. For some women, that's going from business meeting to business meeting. You find a car that's fit for purpose for you rather than perhaps reading the car titles and choosing the newest one.
I think that's why the Picasso appealed to my wife, because it's spacious inside, but it doesn't feel big when you're driving it. Whereas we had a Volvo XC90 a few years ago, and that was big in and out. It felt like you were driving a huge vehicle. And also it was the most thirsty car I've ever experienced in my lifetime.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you, would your wife test drive a car?
Yeah, she would.
Yeah.
It's
important, isn't it? But yeah, I think research shows that so many people these days are buying online without any interaction with a dealer.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I guess COVID's sort of driven that harder, isn't it? Like the whole buy it online, get it delivered.
Yeah.
It's just an extension of Amazon shopping, isn't it? It's kind of gone from batteries through to buying a car.
Yeah.
Is Jeff selling cars yet? I don't think he's got those yet. Is he on there?
He won't be far off, will he? That's for sure.
We'll be on there tomorrow now I've mentioned it. Little subcategory. Hatchbacks.
How did your brother get into karting? Was he into cars as well?
No, he just, I think he went to a party or he just decided to do it for an afternoon and was really good.
Okay.
I mean, if you haven't got millions of pounds, do not let your children go karting just in case they show some promise. And then, I mean, he was really good and he really loved it.
I took my daughter earlier in the year. There was an incentive to get girls into motorsport that Team Sport were doing.
Yeah, too right. Good.
And I met Karen Shunduk actually from F1. He was there. They filmed some stuff for Sky.
Yeah.
And she had a go and she'd never done it before. And they gave her kind of most improved driver of the day. But I've not got the bank balance to get her into it. Unfortunately, she's not ultra competitive.
Yeah.
So she's happy to kind of have a go at stuff.
For fun.
But yeah, I've got a friend who both his kids are into it. And I was chatting to some other people and Yeah, it could bankrupt you very easily,
Oh,
even at go-karting level.
it's a rocky road. Yeah,
I'll stick to the soft play.
stick to the software or the park. It's
Yeah,
free.
the park, yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
true. Yeah.
No, my dad and my brother, it became their thing. And my brother got a place on Formula BMW.
Okay.
So it was single-seater series. And that's how I ended up doing PR, actually. There was a press officer there, a lady called Anne Bradshaw, who is an icon in motorsport PR. She's in her 70s and she's still traveling to all the races.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's absolutely wonderful. And she was the press officer or the PR manager for that series. And I remember watching her. I didn't really know what PR was. And I remember watching her in the paddock and everybody knew her. She was connecting the dots. She was connecting people, talking to everyone. She had such an energy about her. And I thought, whatever that lady's doing is what I want to do with my career. That's what I want to do. And she was incredibly kind and generous and gave me an afternoon of her time a few weeks later because I said, what do you do and how do I do it?
How'd you do it? Yeah.
And she gave me some of her time. And then a colleague of hers was looking for an assistant. It was when the European Touring Car Championship got world status, so it became the World Touring Car Championship.
Okay.
And I got a job as the media assistant through Anne, and I got to go to all of the races at the age of 21.
Awesome.
Nice.
I was at university and my part-time job was traveling with the World Touring Car Championship. So I just have so much to be thankful for. I did better out of it than he did, to be honest. But I was exposed to the world of motorsport and the smell in the paddock and the noise and the camaraderie. It really sent me on my journey, my love of cars, but also my love of my career. So I was incredibly fortunate to be exposed to that. Yeah.
Did you study PR or were you doing something completely different?
I did. Well, I did a year in Brighton studying philosophy. I don't know why, guys. I don't know why. So I did a year. I was so miserable. I feel quite passionately. I think young people, maybe less so these days, but I felt the pressure to go to university and it was too soon. It wasn't right for me. So I left. And then I had the job interview for the motorsport role. I thought, I'm not going to get it. They won't want me. I went to Australia. I was going to stay there for a year, but I did get the job and I came back. And at the same time, I applied for a PR degree. It all kind of just aligned at the same time. And I went to Birmingham City University to do a media degree, which gets a lot of flack, doesn't it? Like it's like a Mickey Mouse degree, but it was wonderful because we had PR, we had TV specialists, radio specialists. And if you did PR, you had to study journalism as well. And that's so important because when you work in PR, your customer is effectively the journalists, the media. And I had an Astra when I was at university, a purple Astra. That was fun.
Did your parents teach you to drive or did you?
Yeah. Well, I had lessons with a lady called Sally locally, but my dad would take me out every now and then. The first time I drove was in an IKEA car park in a VW Polo with a family friend who was like my big sister. And I went to stay with her. She was at university in Bristol and she gave me my first driving lesson and it was amazing. It was an empty car park on a Sunday in IKEA. And then, yeah, proper lessons. But I don't think I was the best student. I am really bossy and I do think I know everything all the time. And I found learning to drive so frustrating because I just wanted to be able to do it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just couldn't believe how difficult it was. It wasn't difficult to learn, but it took ages.
There's a lot to think about over and over again. It's not like you've got it into gear and off you go.
Yeah. Off you go. You have to keep practicing. So I don't think the lessons with my parents were enjoyable for them at all. I remember coming up a hill once and dropping it down. I think I needed to drop it into third, but I went into first. And you can imagine, like, my dad was not happy. And this was I was very, very, very lucky. And I got a car for my 17th. It was a Rover Metro 1.1.
Nice.
And that was freedom on four wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, so lucky. And I was the first one to pass my test. So I would do the school run with everyone. And it took so long for the car to warm up. We were at school by the time, it had defrosted, but that wasn't the point. We were living our best lives. It was incredible.
How long did you have the Metro for, Faye?
It got handed down. We tend to hand cars down through my family because I think I went to university and my sister had it. I think it was in the family for probably 6-7 years.
Okay.
And then it just died.
Yeah.
Because it was old anyway. I called it Julia Gulia. I don't name my cars anymore. What do you think about naming cars?
Not for me.
No, I don't have sensible names. I had a Polo for years. The registration was NLY, and it was a project, and I called it Nearly. But I wouldn't go, oh, I'm going for a drive in Nearly. It was just like, well, that's kind of sums up the whole vehicle.
My kids have always done it just by colour.
Yeah.
Or if it's a newish car, just call it the new car, and it'll be the new car forever. But now it's just the grey car.
It's the new car until it's the old car.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'll tell you what we did have.
Go on.
Baraka Bora. We had a VW Bora, which we called Baraka Bora. I thought that was a great pun.
Clever.
That's good. I like that. I don't know if I'd name my cars now. I don't know why. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place. I think if you don't take it too seriously, it's fine. I think if you probably start making bunting with its name on and hanging it from the rearview mirror or something, you've probably gone a little bit too far.
Or I think it's kind of okay if it's a lovable rogue, isn't it? You know, if it's old and a bit battered, giving it a name's okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, taking delivery of a brand new Porsche and giving it a name, I don't know. Yeah, that's questionable, isn't it? Questionable.
I'll remember that for when I...
Yeah, when you get your brand new...
Porsche comes through. Yeah.
Don't name it.
I remember one of my old 5 Series, the number plate was G807TTY, and it looked a bit like Grotty. So my wife used to call it Grotty now and again.
Yeah.
Which is a bit unkind, I thought. But...
The registration is important, isn't it? On a car's identity.
Yeah.
And any naming potential.
I had a VW Jetta with YPR on it, and I used to think that stood for Young Person's Rail Card.
Which you got free with your bank account, didn't you? With your student bank account.
That was a good little car, actually.
Those are the days.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 2 letters of a number plate are critical to a car's credibility, I'd say.
Would you not buy a car off its number plate? I guess you could put a personal plate on it, but if it said something and you were like...
No, I don't think it would put me off. I think I'd have to make a joke about it.
A lot of the sort of naughty ones or the inappropriate ones are taken out of circulation, aren't they?
It's true.
I saw one recently and it had 3 Ks on the end of the number plate. I thought, that's surely not.
There's one, I don't know, you might need to edit this out. I don't know if it's family friendly, but one that I remember reading that never got made was BA11 and then I think it was BAG. That was on the list of ones that never got made, which I think is such a shame, but I get it.
That's a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
Imagine if some unsuspecting old lady got that on their new Kia Picanto or something.
They should all be allowed in circulation, those ones, in some sort of like dark web equivalent, but like a dark road equivalent where they can all just drive around and admire the...
Yes! What car would you put that on? What's the best car that you would see that on?
Qashqai.
I think a Ford KA. That would have been quite funny. I know they don't make them anymore, so that wouldn't have existed. But a tiny little thing, I think. Yellow Picanto. Or, yeah, like a really aggressive Audi or an M2 or something.
Yeah, that's more likely, isn't it? Sort of young lad just puts it on because it would be funny.
Or a white Escort with a big spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm not judging, by the way. Anyone that listens to this with these cars, I'm not judging you. This is the thing. We all make our choices and it's an extension of who we are. And it is a statement in one way or another. And I think that is brilliant. And I want to stop everybody and ask them why they chose that car. And sometimes it's because, well, it's all I could afford. And sometimes it's because I just love the colour and my parents had one that, you know, like everybody's got a story about their car and it's magic.
Do you recall grandparents' vehicles?
Yeah, so I only had one set of grandparents.
Okay.
And they probably drove less than 1,000 miles a year. But they did love a Ford Fiesta.
Fair enough.
And it was a really big deal for them. They had quite small lives. And so new car day or going to look at a car, choosing a car. I don't know if they got new ones or sort of ex-demo or whatever, but it was always a Ford and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And again, you know, they worked hard and they retired and it was a big purchase. It was a financial purchase, but a really emotive one. Yeah. And one with pride. They didn't always have new cars or nice cars. So as they got older, it was something they took pride in.
I think some people I guess they would get a new car or replace their vehicle on a 3-year, 4-year cycle or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I guess you've got other people who literally just run it into the ground.
Yeah.
And you've got to get a new one when the old one just stops working.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got to make that decision. So my parents were in the second category there, and you have to make that decision of, do we spend X hundred of pound fixing it in the hope that it keeps going, or do we replace it? It's a real gamble, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, how much more can we put into this car? And if you've got a family, or you commute to work and you've only got one car, you need it. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the latter now.
Run it in till it's gone. Yeah.
But I don't sort of abuse it. I try and, keep it going for as long as possible by just doing the fundamentals, servicing, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely a case of, if it gets to a really expensive fix, you do sort of think, what do we do? But then you also get to that point of, I've spent so much fixing it in the past, I just don't want to, I don't want to stop now. I just want to keep going on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think there's any cars from your past that have influenced vehicles you've bought? Well, you mentioned obviously the SL.
Yeah.
That's kind of the sort of the dream car in the future. But
at the moment, I've got an Audi A3. So I think I'm an Audi fan because I had an Audi TT. I don't know why. I think I just like the styling. I like how they drive.
Is there an era of vehicle that you're drawn to? Are you drawn to the cars which you grew up with kind of as a kid?
I don't think so.
Do you prefer sort of modern with sort of mod cons and...
I think for me, it's about brands rather than era. So I love looking at how brands have evolved. So Aston Martin, for example, the DB5 is just one of my favourite cars. I do really love classic cars. I think I'm a sucker for brand loyalty. I'm a marketeer's dream because I buy into the story and I think, yes, the designers have come and gone through the years, but how that brand makes you feel probably is the same. No, there's not an era. Maybe I'm a bit fickle. I don't know. It's the story. It's how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
I think it's also a time in your life.
Yeah.
So the cars that turn my head now are different to when I was younger. And I'm sure in 20 years' time will be different again. Personal taste and preference shifts with who you are at the time and what's going on in the world. So I could probably tell you something I like about every single car brand. But I couldn't say to you, no, my favourite era was the 70s. No, I'm here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
Have either of you watched that new programme Rivals that's doing the rounds at the moment?
No.
I think it's on Disney. That's worth a watch, set in 1986, which is just excellent for sort of seeing old cars and stuff like that. Yeah, have a look. It's got a really impressive cast.
I will. I felt old when I went to Salon Privé this year because they had a Ford Escort as a classic car. It was beautiful. It'd been all renovated and it was brown, but I can't believe that is now in the classic car.
What year, Escort?
I'm not sure. I want to say around 83. I think it was around 83 time.
Okay.
That's 40 plus, isn't it?
But can you believe that is now classic?
Yeah.
It's older than me, just.
Oh, how old are you?
I was 40 a few weeks ago.
Me too. I was 40 last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
1984.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. But you're getting older when the cars you grew up with are now classic cars. How has that happened?
Yeah.
That's like when I see what's the ugly Fiesta that's...
Like the Snoopy front one, Mark Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, the really soft one, the rounded one. And a lot of those were in purple, weren't they? Yeah.
People were trying to sort of tout that as a future classic. I just can't see it, but I guess it will be because it's old and it's a Ford, so...
And it looked horrible, so everyone scrapped them.
Yeah.
So it's got a rarity value to it.
There's only two left.
Yeah, that's why they broke down. Probe. Thoughts on the Probe?
Ford Probe.
No. That was a huge flop, wasn't it?
But it looked great.
That was the Capri replacement, wasn't it, at the time?
Well, the Capri's back, isn't it?
Yeah, dreadful.
That's not a Capri, is it?
Dreadful.
That's a whole other podcast episode.
They've killed two legendary names, haven't they? Was it Mustang and they did Mackie, but
yeah. Apparently that's a really good car. Johnny Smith was saying that it's as electric cars go, you could do a lot worse.
I'll take his word for it.
Do people still buy Fords?
I guess they must do,
because we're saying about sort of grandparents. They're kind of very loyal to the Ford brand, aren't they? Like I've got neighbours across the road, and you can tell that they've had like a Focus or a Fiesta before that, and they just continue it all the time. But you sort of think when these people pass on, who's going to be buying small Fords? Driving instructors, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, their product range is up in the air a bit, isn't it? They've stopped the Fiesta.
Mm-hmm. And the KA's gone, you're saying?
Yeah. I feel for manufacturers. It's such an uncertain future. And, they have factories. When you make a car, it's at least a 4-year cycle. So everything is planned 4 years in advance. So to be making those strategic business decisions now with such an uncertain future in terms of, is it going to be fully electric? What's the infrastructure going to look like? It varies from market to market around the world. I wouldn't want to be making those decisions with thousands of jobs at stake. It's tough.
Suppose in terms of smaller cars, it's a different world now in terms of like if a parent's looking to go and buy a brand new car for their child, it's hard to just go and spend, I don't even know what a small car would be now, 20, 25, something like that.
Yeah.
People still do that? I don't really know. And
it's a good question, isn't it? And then it's the insurance on top. I've heard, I mean, my children are too young for me to have this problem yet, but it's the insurance that you have to factor in, thousands and thousands of pounds. It's very prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I guess there's the Golf. Golf will always be a classic. Polo. I think the Renault, that they're new, so they won't be cheap, but Renault's bringing out some really nice stuff. The new Renault 5, that's going to do really well, I think. But the kids that are starting to learn to drive, it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because you've got some old bangers. It's probably more cost effective to get a cheap one on like a 3-year lease or whatever. I don't know. Cross that bridge when I come to it.
My kids are going to be driving old cars.
Yeah.
Tax exempt, MOT exempt. That'll be it. That's what you're having.
But do you think that kids will learn to drive with a manual gearbox?
Mine will.
Yeah, mine will too. But not many do they? I don't think
there isn't an automatic. I don't know what you mean. Yeah.
If you take your test in an EV, you must be able to. But if you pass in an EV, that should mean you can only drive an EV. That's like a Dodgem.
Yeah.
No offense to people who only drive automatics, but that's kind of even easier than an automatic, isn't it? You just put your foot down.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to get some hate for this?
No.
Or do you think your listeners are also manual transmission fans?
No such thing as bad publicity, Faye.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
We'll take anything.
Day one, automotive PR course.
Yeah. Well, look, let's go really controversial and say that all the best drivers drive manual cars. I mean, then you get the paddle shift thing, don't you? Is that truly manual? What do you think?
That's what I've got in the Picasso.
Paddle shift in the Picasso.
Yeah.
Oh, racing Picasso.
She doesn't use it. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
It's great.
And does it kick in automatically? Or
yeah, no, it's instant.
As in, does it override you? If you let the revs get too high, does it override?
No, it doesn't override.
Good. That is good.
So you can bounce it off the limiter.
Go in the red. Go in the red.
You've got D mode, and then if you put it into M, then it goes into manual.
Excellent.
But I realised quite early on that even when you're in D mode, you can just use the paddles anyway. I'm assuming that's just some sort of Citroen fault that's...
Quirk, I think they market them as.
Yeah. But no, it does work well.
Yeah, big fan of those. And you go down. Do you ever go down two in one go?
Well, it's a diesel, so there's not really much point in terms of the engine note. It sort of gets quite noisy.
I think I should have been a racing driver. I think, yeah, I've missed my calling. Shame.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Faye.
Thanks, Faye.
Oh, I've loved talking to you, Bae.
Yes, it's been good fun. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it too. Your first podcasting experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being so wonderful. It's great. Great fun.
Very kind of you.
Nice to meet you, Faye.
Long live the manual gearbox. Thank you, guys.
There we go.
Very good.
Yeah, it was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I think obviously given what she does, it'd be kind of interesting just to chat with her for hours and hours anyway. But probably not necessarily about Dad's cars. But yeah, nice to have her on. And we kicked off with Sierras, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Which similar age to us as well.
Common theme, yeah, for 80s children, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wanted to delve deeper into what it's like living next to a school, and did her parents get riled up with the constant...
The parking.
Because I don't live in a school road, so we always park sort of far enough away just so we're not sort of encroaching, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's incredible, I find, like the amount of parents that do just drive into the road. So it's a through road where the school is, and it's not really got any parking. It's kind of one of those ones where all the curbs have been dropped for drives and people kind of park over a drive. There's a skip there, maybe, that sort of thing. But yeah, it just blows my mind, like how people just can't park, 2 minutes away rather than...
Yeah, it's the the urgency, isn't it, of just needing to do everything instant.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And
parking on the yellow zigzags and
it's raining at the moment actually, but yeah, when it's kind of throwing it down, it's probably a 15-minute walk to a kid's school, but it's got to be something kind of astronomical for us to kind of get the car out, because actually at the other end you've still got to park 5 minutes away. If it's sideways rain, you're going to get soaked anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll just dress them up wellies and umbrellas and
that's it.
off you go.
Yeah.
And hopefully, in the future that will just mean that they don't just grow up to be wimps who don't want to go outside.
Slobs. Yeah.
Slobs. That's probably going to get to more people than the manual automatic gearbox debate. We're not calling anyone's child a slob.
I listen to your podcast. I drive a Tesla automatic and I park on the yellow zigzags.
So yeah, that was that. Hilariously, actually, the car that she mentioned to Johnny Smith was a Vauxhall Carlton, and I don't think we even spoke about it.
Oh no.
But
it's a shame.
Yeah. Oh well.
Big old things, yeah. It's funny, when she mentioned it, my ears sort of pricked up a bit, and then obviously the conversation went away with itself somewhere else, so it kind of got forgotten.
It's funny, yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe we should get her on again.
Was that Carlton? That's more. My friend's dad had a Carlton actually, and yeah, it was one of those cars where it was always sort of full of coffee cups and fag packets, that type of.
Was he CID? He probably was, wasn't he?
No, he was a solicitor, I think.
My friend's dad had the Senator, which, did that replace the Carlton? Or
it was the Opel Senator or the Vauxhall Carlton, wasn't it? I think. I don't know whether you could buy the Opel over here at the time, but
yeah, it was definitely a Vauxhall
Senator.
I'm sure it was a Vauxhall Senator. Yeah,
it might have been.
I don't think it meant it. I think it's a 3-litre V6, maybe. What a nice thing. Guess maybe like top of the scale of the company car.
Yeah, maybe. I think they were very similar. Maybe the Senator wasn't a saloon. Maybe the Senator was only a estate or a hatchback or something.
I'm sure it was a saloon, this one that I'm thinking of. But I'll have to have a little look at that.
Yes. Okie dokie. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks, mate.
We'll wrap this up. Roll the credits.
Thank you for listening to My Dad's Car. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please support us. Buy us a coffee and subscribe. And tell all your friends.